Where can you buy in Melbourne for under 600,000? So in this video, we're going to deep dive into specific regions in Melbourne where you can buy property for under 600,000. Hi, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Jathu and I'm a buyer's agent for property investors and I buy properties all around the country using a data-driven approach. So if you want to work with me, please go to my website propertyframeworkbuyersagency.com.au and book a session with me there. Now, when it comes to Melbourne, we've got two types of investors. The first group who are now leaving Melbourne because they're seeing prices stagnant and they can't afford to hold on to their properties. And then we have the second group of investors who are now seeing the opportunity in Melbourne. They're seeing Melbourne as undervalued and they want to try to get into Melbourne early before prices start rising. So if you look at Melbourne has only done about 20 to 30% growth over the last 7 years, way below other cities like Adelaide, Perth and Brisbane. And if you look at the price gap between Sydney and Melbourne, it's now sitting at 41% and it hasn't been this wide before. So Melbourne is definitely undervalued and that's one of the reasons why investors are now starting to turn their attention towards Melbourne. Not all investors, but some of them. And just because a market is undervalued doesn't mean that you should start buying there. You should see some signs of market recovery, that prices are just starting to move upwards. So in this video, I'm going to go through some areas where there is market recovery, where the prices are just showing some signs of moving upwards. We're going to look at things like the affordability, the unemployment rates, and then deep dive into market trends with certain suburbs. So you'll get a lot of value in this video, so watch till the end. Now this is going to be split into two parts. In the first part, we'll cover certain regions and the second part, we'll cover more regions. Now, the first region I'm going to cover is the Hume City Council, which is in the north of Melbourne. So, Hume City has about 262,000 people and the suburbs that are under 600,000 are typically your suburbs like Meadow Heights, Broadmeadows, Coolaroo, West Meadows, Jacana, Dallas. Now, these are lower socio suburbs and you can find older styled homes here on blocks of land about 500 to 600 meters squared. The median incomes here are also relatively low. And in this region, there are plenty of manufacturing, construction and warehouse related jobs. So most of the people do have jobs in that region itself. They don't have to travel outside for work. Now let's look at the unemployment trends in the Hume City Council. Now while the unemployment rate as of 2024 sits at 7.2, the trend is fairly positive because it's been the lowest it has over the last 10 to 15 years. But however, the affordability in the region, especially the lower price suburbs, you're seeing that the affordability is sitting between 40 to 45 years. If you want to know what this affordability index means, then please go back to my previous videos where I explain this particular index. So affordability at 40 to 45 years, it's slightly stretched for that price points, but nevertheless, there is still room for price growth in these areas. Now let's look at the market pressure. Now I've taken the postcode 3047, which is a collection of suburbs in that Hume City Council, and you can see that the stock reduced between 23 and 24, and then since then it has been fairly constant. Now I'm going to look at three different suburbs in this region. The first one is Dallas. So if you look at the days on market trend for Dallas, you can see that it's steadily reducing over the last year. The sales volume has remained fairly constant at around 70 to 75 sales every month. The price change, you can see that slight uptick, the slight upward trends in the prices, but nothing too significant. Now let's move to the second one, Broadmeadows. The days on market hasn't really changed too much. It's around that 35 days. The sales volume has increased over the last year. So we're seeing that slight uptick in the sales volume. And the price change, again, not too much change in the prices. It has been fairly steady around that 568, 570 mark. Now let's look at one more suburb in the region, which is Coolaroo. So you can see that the days on market has reduced from 30 to 22 days over the last year. The sales volume, the activity has increased from 35 transactions a month till about 45 transactions a month. And then the price change here, you can see that there is somewhat of a price change here from 525 to about 540. So slight movement in the prices. So if you summarize all of these, there is evidence to show that this region is recovering. It's no longer declining in value. There is some signs to show that prices are starting to move up. The stock on market is the same, but the days on market generally is going down. The sales volumes are slightly moving up, and you can see that prices are just inching upward. So when interest rates get cut, this is potentially a market that could move up in value. So what can you buy in this region? You can buy a 3x1 on a 500 meter square block like this house here, which was sold for 552,000 recently. So you get good value in this region. Now let's move to the second one, which is the Brimbank Council. So this is about 25 kilometers northwest of Melbourne CBD. So fairly close to Melbourne CBD. It's again a lower social area, but it does have that close proximity to Melbourne CBD. And in this region, they're talking under 600,000. We're talking of suburbs like Deer Park, Kings Park, Alban Vale. These are where you can find your 3x1s under 600,000 on decent sized blocks of land. So over here again, the affordability is a bit of a concern because lower price point, 40 to 45 years, because the median incomes are low, that affordability is slightly on the upper side and it's getting stretched, but that doesn't mean that prices will not grow further, but it's something to take note. The unemployment rate in Brimbank again is slightly high, sitting at 5.9%, but it has been trending low, and it has been the lowest it has over the last 10 to 15 years. Now we're going to look at one suburb in the Brimbank region, which is Deer Park. So this is the stock on market for postcode 3021, which is a collection of suburbs around that Deer Park region, and you can see stock on market is fairly steady over the last 1 or 2 years, just that slight uptick, but nothing too concerning. If you look at the days on market for Deer Park, we're seeing that the days on market has reduced from 27 to about 20 days over the last year. The sales volume has increased from 150 to about 220, so a fairly significant increase in the sales activity. And then we're seeing that the median value has changed from around 640 to about 642, so hardly any change in the prices. But it does show that on the background, we can see days on market reducing, sales volume increasing, more evidence to show that the market is not going to decline further. There might be a recovery coming here and prices might rise once the interest rates get cut. So what can you buy in Deer Park? You can buy a home like this for about 580,000. This one sold for 580,000. It's a 3x2 on a 535 meter square block of land. So again, good value for money. So those are the two regions which I wanted to cover first. So we have that Hume City Council and the Brimbank City Council. I think both markets are showing some signs of recovery, and if you buy there will be price growth coming in once the interest rates get cut. So those are the two regions which I'm covering in this video. In the next one, we'll deep dive into more regions and more suburbs.